everyone, it's Agnieszka from 5-Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. So today you have probably noticed the lighting in my video is a little bit funny. That's because the day is very gloomy today, and so I had to put my ceiling light on, which is creating this kind of strange aura. But hopefully you will be able to focus on the topic of my video, which is how to pronounce foreign food names in English. And the idea for this video came to me the other day when I was getting coffee in London. I was ordering an espresso. So a lot of people in London actually seem to think that it's pronounced espresso, as if there was an X in the word, but in fact there isn't an X in the word, there is just an S, so the word should be pronounced espresso rather than espresso. And so I thought I would make a video about espresso specifically, but also about other foreign food and drink names and how they're pronounced in British English specifically. I'm going to talk about British English because I know that many of you are actually interested in that. And also I live in the UK, so I don't really have that much exposure to American English, and I wouldn't be able to comment on that or other varieties of English. So let's get started. So first we're going to discuss Italian foods, since we're on the topic of espresso. The first one, which is quite a common dish in the Italian cuisine, is spaghetti bolognese. And I know that when you speak Italian, this is probably pronounced very differently, something like bolognese. But in English, actually, in British English, you just say bolognese. So there is no kind of e sound at the end. Spaghetti bolognese. The next one I want to talk to you about is mascarpone, and that is a type of cheese that's often used in things like tiramisu or other Italian cakes, and some people pronounce it mascarpone, some people pronounce it mascarpone, but the pronunciation that's kind of most commonly heard in the UK in British English is mascarpone. The next word, which is very common in the UK at least, because that's something that people like to eat, is ciabatta. Ciabatta is a type of bread that you can eat kind of heated up with different fillings, and the pronunciation of the word is actually very close to the original Italian pronunciation. It's got a C and an I, and in Italian that would be pronounced as a chi kind of sound, so ciabatta is the way people say it in British English. Okay, the next one is French cuisine. Something very common that you will probably be able to get in most countries in the world is a croissant. I know that American English speakers pronounce it very differently, but croissant is the way English people pronounce the word. So it's not croissant, which is obviously the French pronunciation. It's more kind of anglicized, so it's croissant. The next one is also a French pastry, which is pain au chocolat. The pronunciation is quite close to the French pronunciation actually. It's not that different, it's just pain au chocolat. When I was in America, I actually heard people call it a chocolate croissant, which was very confusing, but soon I learned that that's what they meant. It was in California, I think, so maybe that's a local kind of word. The next one, which is another big one, is brioche. I know in French this word would be pronounced very differently. It would probably be just one syllable, brioche, whereas in English it has two syllables, brioche. There are two distinct syllables, so the E sound is kind of elongated and it merges into the O, so brioche. The next one is also French. It's steak frites, and it's a dish that's quite popular in France. It's made up of a steak and some French fries, and it's quite a funny one because steak frites is pronounced kind of like in English. The word steak is just pronounced like the English word steak, and then frite is kind of pronounced like the French would pronounce it, if you know what I mean. So you've got like the English pronunciation and the French pronunciation together forming one phrase. So steak frite is how people would say it in British English. The next one is a salad called niçoise. It's a salad with tuna and hard-boiled egg, as far as I'm aware. I've never actually had it. I think it's quite common in the UK to have it, and people call it just niçoise salad. Okay, the next one is a Mexican dish. It's chili con carne. The end of the word carne, which is meat in Spanish, is kind of turned into this A sound, which is something that British English speakers would normally do at the end of an Italian, Spanish or French word. So chili con carne is how people pronounce it in British English. Okay, the next one is chorizo. Chorizo is actually the English pronunciation of the word. I know that in Spanish you would say the Z sound very differently. It would sound something like chorizo. And then in South America as well, the pronunciation would be different. So in Mexico it would, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it would be chorizo, because they don't have the th sound that the Spain Spanish speakers have. So in British English people call it chorizo. It's a very common thing. It's available in all supermarkets. I don't know whether it's popular in the United States, so if you're American, let me know if chorizo is a popular thing to eat, and if so, how it's pronounced. Okay, the next one is tortilla. And that's an interesting one because the next one after that has the same spelling, but the pronunciation is different. But wait for it. Tortilla, that's how people say it in the UK. It's the little wrap with something inside it. So the double L is actually pronounced as it should be in Spanish. It makes the sound y. So tortilla instead of tortilla. But then the next one is paella, which a lot of people in the UK would actually pronounce with an L sound instead of the y sound that you will find in tortilla. So they will say tortilla, but paella. And then if you go to Spain, you will know that people actually call it paella instead of paella. Okay, the next one is an Austrian dish, Wiener Schnitzel, and that's how it's pronounced in British English. I believe the pronunciation is very close to how it would be pronounced in German, so there aren't a lot of differences there. Okay, the next one is quite a tricky one. So this word is quinoa in British English, that's how it's pronounced. Some people might see it and look at it and think it's pronounced quinoa, but it is not pronounced like that. When it became popular for the first time, I think I didn't know how to pronounce it for a very long time until I heard it, and then I thought, is that the same word as the one that I've seen written down so many times? I had to kind of make sure that it's definitely that word because it's pronounced not how it's kind of written, if you know what I mean. So quinoa is the British English pronunciation. I would also be interested in how American people pronounce it, so if you're American, let me know. And the final one is also something that's incredibly popular, has been popular for a while, acai. In London, for example, there's a lot of places where you can get acai bowls, which are kind of bowls with yogurt and different nuts and fruit, and acai is the berry that kind of makes up the majority of the dish. The original pronunciation of this is the I has a little stroke on top of it, and it is actually enunciated and stressed, so the E at the end would actually be quite prominent. So it's not acai, it's not acai, it's acai. That's how it's pronounced in British English, even though the original pronunciation would call for something like acai because of the accent over the I. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this list of foreign foods, and I'd be interested in how you actually pronounce them in your own country. So make sure you leave me a comment and let me know, and I will see you next time. Bye!